Hey guys, I'm Jonas. Today I'm going to show you how to get your zero-turn mower serviced and ready to go. For this video, we're going to be using this Hustler Fast Track, but this general procedure is going to be the same no matter what make or model of residential zero-turn mower you have. In the description down below, I'm going to leave a link to a maintenance checklist that I put together. There's also going to be some links down there for some different parts and tools that we use while servicing this equipment, as well as the links to the service kits that will come with oil, the filters, everything that you need to be able to service your machine. On these residential mowers, I recommend changing your engine oil every 50 hours or once a season, whichever comes first. The first thing that I like to do is start draining your engine oil. Most of these engines have a drain that's coming out of the side of the block that either has a drain tube on it already, or your mower may have came with a drain tube in with the owner's manual that will slip onto there to help direct the oil out away from the engine into your oil pan. On most of your Kawasaki and Kohler engines, these use a 10mm wrench to loosen the drain plug. While our engine oil is draining, we can go ahead and change out our spark plugs. I do like to use the air compressor to blow off around these spark plugs before you remove them in case there's any dirt or debris built up around them, so that you don't knock that into your engine while trying to reinstall your new spark plugs. On these Kawasaki engines, if you don't have an opening in your engine plate below the oil filter like we do, you can use the bottom of a cup, just cut down short enough to fit underneath of that filter to catch the oil that's going to run off of the bottom of it so it doesn't make a mess. To remove these filters, I just use a pair of oil filter pliers. I'll leave a link in the description below. Before installing your new oil filter, you need to put some oil on the gasket. An easy way to keep track of when you did your oil filter is to use a silver or black Sharpie, depending on the color of your oil filter, to write on the bottom of the filter the hours when you changed your oil. Spin your new filter on and hand tighten only. Throughout the mowing season, you should be checking your air filter every time or every other time that you're mowing, depending on your conditions. But I like to replace the air filter every season or every time that you do an oil change. You can use a rag to cover up your intake and then use an air hose to blow off the inside of your air filter housing. Now, using a pair of pliers to slide the clamps back on the fuel filter, we can remove the fuel lines and then install our new fuel filter. Your new fuel filter should have a directional arrow on you showing you which way that the fuel is flowing. That arrow needs to be pointed towards the carburetor. One thing that you want to watch out for on these engines is making sure that the screen on your fuel pump does not get plugged with dirt. If your machine has serviceable hydrostats with oil reservoirs, you need to be checking the oil in those reservoirs. They typically have a line towards the bottom of the reservoir showing where the oil level needs to be when the oil is cold. If your machine has the ZT series hydrostats from Hydrogear, they recommend changing your break-in oil around 50 hours and then every 3 years or 200 hours after that. We will have a video coming out soon on how to do a hydrostat service. Once all your oil's done draining, you can tighten down your drain plug and remove the oil drain tube if necessary. If you have a Kawasaki engine like this with the plastic drain plug, be careful not to over-tighten the drain plug. Most of these V-twin engines are going to hold 2 quarts of engine oil. Now you need to start and run your engine for 5 to 10 seconds, then shut it off and double check your engine oil level. It's also a good idea to take a look at your battery terminals to make sure that you don't have any corrosion. If you do, you need to use some battery terminal cleaner to get it cleaned up, and then spray it with a battery terminal protector to help keep it from corroding anymore. Having improper tire pressure is not only going to affect the level of your cut, but it's also going to affect your steering. Having a low tire is going to make it tougher to drive straight, and it's also going to be putting more load on your drive system. To check the tire pressures on these machines, you're going to need a low pressure tire gauge, one that goes from 1 up to 20 psi. Most of these tires are going to be recommended to run at 8 to 12 psi. I usually run towards the lower side of that, around 8 to 9 psi, to give me a little bit softer ride. Now we can go ahead and remove the belt covers from the top of the deck. With the cover removed, we can now inspect the belt. You're going to be looking for frays or cracks in the belt, or if there's any chunks missing. You need to try to inspect as much of the belt as you can see. Now we need to jack up the front of the machine so that we can get to the bottom side of the deck. I'm fortunate enough to be able to have an electric lift to be able to do this, but for a lot of years I just used a mow jack, which is a jack that you drive the front tires of the machine into, and then it has a crank on it that will raise up the front of your machine so that you can safely be able to get underneath of your deck to change out blades and clean out your deck. I'll leave a link in the description down below for that mow jack. They're really a great tool for being able to do this kind of work. Well, we've got the machine lifted up in the air like this. We want to get under there, get the blades off so that we can sharpen or replace those. You want to clean out the bottom of your deck as best you can. We will be doing some videos later on some different sprays that you can put on the bottom of your deck that's supposed to help keep the grass from sticking to them. So we're going to do some tests on about a half a dozen different sprays and see how they actually perform. You're also going to want to take a little bit of time to check out your spindles. While the blade is still bolted onto the spindle, try to wiggle the end of the blade up and down. If there's any free play in there, that usually means that the bearings are starting to go out in your spindle and it's going to need to be replaced. If your spindle has a grease zerk on it, you want to go ahead and hit that with some grease. This is also a really good time to be looking for other grease zerks on the front of your machine. A lot of times your front wheel bearings will have a grease zerk there. Sometimes the top of the caster will have a grease zerk. A lot of times your deck lift system, where the bar goes across the frame to raise and lower your deck, there'll be a grease zerk on that, so you want to hit those with 1 or 2 pumps of grease. And then just be looking at all your other pulleys and the top side of your spindle, see if there's any other grease zerks around there. The easiest way that I've found to remove blade bolts is just using an electric 1/2-inch impact gun. I'll leave a link in the description below for a couple that I recommend. Blade bolts on this machine use a 15/16 socket. There's several different companies that make some nice deck scrapers. I'll leave the links in the description below. Keeping your mower blades sharp throughout the mowing season not only is going to give you a better cut quality, it's also going to help you mow faster and put less load on your engine by trying to cut with dull blades. I recommend sharpening your mower blades every 5 to 10 hours of mowing time, depending on your mowing conditions. There's several different ways that you can go about sharpening your own mower blade. Everything from using just a basic hand file or a 4-inch angle grinder with a flap disc on it, a bench grinder with a jig to hold the blade at the right angle. They make some really nice 2-inch wheel style grinders, all the way up to, you know, the nice belt grinders, which is what I use, that can really do a nice job of putting an edge on these blades. Just remember that while sharpening your blade, it also needs to be balanced. So once you've sharpened both sides, you need to have a blade balancer to make sure that one side isn't heavier than the other. They make some really cheap balancers. You just set the blade down on whichever side falls towards the table is the heavier side, so you need to grind more off of that side until you get it balanced. Having an imbalanced blade is going to cause excess wear on your spindles and deck. Once you're done servicing your machine, you're going to want to take it outside and blow it off as best you can using either a leaf blower or an air hose. just blow off the top of your deck and all around your engine area, through the fins on your engine, whatever you can get to blow as much of the grass and dirt out of there as you can, and that's going to help your machine stay running cooler. I highly recommend using some sort of fuel stabilizer in the fall when you park your machine. Just dump a little bit in the tank, let it run for at least 5 to 10 minutes to get that stabilizer worked completely through the fuel system and into the carburetor, and then you should be good to let that machine sit for the winter and not have any problems with it firing up in the spring. I like to use the Stabil brand of fuel stabilizer. I'll have a link to that in the description down below. We do have these light kits available for the Hustler mowers, as well as the canister style air cleaner upgrade kits that will fit on any of the Kawasaki FR series engines. So if you guys want to check those out at powerequipmentman.com. That's going to wrap it up for today, guys. If you got some good value out of this video, please hit that thumbs up button. Consider subscribing. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.